This is the GMologist, GM extraordinaire, the GMologist.
Hey Carl, Jason here. Just listened to your latest episode. You know, you play a lot of games, and I'm proud of you. I'm glad that your games are going well. I'm glad you have solid groups, and I'm glad that, that I'm glad for you. I know that's not very elegant, but it's good that somebody's getting some gaming in, because I'm sure not. Anyhow, take care, keep up the great work, and have fun at those conventions. Talk to you soon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GMologist Presents. That was a uplifting message from Jason Connerly of Nerds RPG Variety Cast. Thanks so much, Jason. Today, I have, that call-in and another one from M.W. Lewis, and I will discuss them in kind, referencing what they mentioned. And the main topic, I get my buddy BJ Boyd of the Arcane Alienist on, and we discuss this transition, these differences, player's handbook focused only, kinda, between D&D 2014 and D&D 2024. I state the reasons why when I discuss it with BJ. It was a really cool discussion, and I think the conclusion, maybe you'll come to that conclusion, is that what is old is new again, kinda, in a way. Anyway, thanks so much, Jason. Yeah, so I do have a convention coming up. I have kind of a marathon for charity. I think I should mention that. I'll put this in the show notes. So I play a lot of games on Dungeon Musings. Kevin Madison is a Dungeon Muser, and he runs Dungeon Musings channel. And next weekend, on the 31st of May, he's having a marathon. So I'll put the link in the show notes to it. You can make donations. The donations are going to SOS Children's Villages. And you can donate and make our lives, our players, more or easier or more difficult, depending on what you contribute and maybe ask for. So it should be really fun, and it's going to be all day, May 31st. So that should be pretty fun. That's kind of a mini convention. And then, so that's starting tomorrow as of the release of this podcast. And then next week, I'm going to North Texas RPG Con, and I have 4 games that I'm running and 1 game that I'm playing in. So the games that I'm running, I'll do those first. That's probably easier. So I'm running 4 games, like I said. I'm running a game for Hyperborea. It's called Shadow of the Wizard. And then I'm running a game maybe I should explain about these games as I go on. So Shadow of the Wizard is a Hyperborea game inspired by Rainbow Stargazer. So I quote the following, I believe. Let me see if I have the quotes here. Yes, you have toiled under the lash of the beastmen to build this great tower. Today, though, all eyes see the figure of the wizard as he climbs to the top of the world. No sound as he falls instead of rising. Time standing still, then there's blood on the sand. Now what do you do? That's kind of my premise. So it is inspired by, like I said, Stargazer. So it should be pretty cool. The next game, that's on the list. Actually, the game is Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon. Somehow they are listed Saturday first, then Friday. I guess we're moving backwards in time. Mountain of the Gods. You have been chosen by your tribe to ascend the Mountain of the Gods. It is a trial, a sacrifice no one knows, because no one ever returns. But it must be done, or hellfire will come, say the wise ones. Characters will be created using sort of Cepheus rulebook for a 2d6 sword and sorcery game. So it's kind of a mashup of Traveler, or at least the OGL Traveler, with some 40k kind of reference. You might know what I mean if you are playing 40k. Next is, Friday morning, I'm doing Operation Jersey Devil. This is a game, actually, that has been fleshed out the most. Ironically, it is only have 1 player in it right now, which is weird. Maybe I think there's a lot of games that Friday morning, so people are playing in those because, no one really knows me. As opposed to the other people who are running games in, I guess, relative comparison. If this were a conference about molecular biology and the genetics of Alzheimer's disease, I probably would have a full session. Anyway, Operation Jersey Devil. On the eve of the invasion of Fortress Europe, a small team of allied special branch heroes is sent on a secret mission to take out a radio tower on the heavily fortified Jersey Island. However, the mission is not as straightforward as it first seems. I have pre-gen, so it's kind of a mashup. I'm going to be using Operation Whitebox, which is a sword and wizardry chassis, and I'll use level 3 heroes, and they have superpowers. So it's kind of a mashup of Operation Whitebox and low-level supers, as if like you see in Godlike. And then lastly, I'm going to be running a game called The Song of Roland. So you're the last gunslingers, part of Roland Deschain's graduating class. There are only 13 of you. The Red Slaughter has reached this last bastion of civilization, and you must protect the frontier as best you can with gun and sword. A Pendragon mashup within the world of Stephen King's Dark Tower. So I'm going to use Pendragon rules to imagine the gunslingers. So really, it's separating out or taking out lances or guns, and we'll see how it goes. And it'll be during the time of the Red Slaughter. But I got 4 players for that one. Should be pretty neat. And then I'm playing in a game also. What am I playing in? And of course, I'm be taking some other stuff to run. The game I'm playing in, excuse me, is a game called Attack of the Radioactive Hamsters from a Planet Near Mars. And that is being run by T. Drennan. So it should be pretty fun, and I'm looking forward to it. 2 other players with me in it, and we'll have a lot of fun. What is the rule system? It came from the Late Late Show, so that should be kind of nice, actually. So I haven't played that game before. I might have a PDF somewhere of it, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm also going to take some AD&D 2E stuff. It seems like all the crew for my ongoing Hyperborea are going to be there for the most part, so we might run some Hyperborea in that verse. Using those characters, I will remind them to bring their characters, or at least have access to them, which should be pretty neat. And I wanted to also, like I said, run some AD&D 2E. Maybe I'll bring some other stuff. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll bring something easy to run. But I'm taking my tablets. I got a lot of games on that, or at least access through Google Drive. So there you go. Thanks for the call, Jason Connerly. And you have prompted me to talk about North Texas RPG Con and what I'm doing there. That's my North Texas RPG Con prep. I still got to build out some of those games, or at least write down outlines. Like I said, Operation Jersey Devil is more or less ready to go. I have actually submitted it, and you'll hear a couple announcements about that kind of stuff at the end of the show. So I submitted that to the Anchorite, what's it called? The APA, the Anchorite Amateur Press Association mag, that I've put some stuff together. I finally got mashup. My issue 2 is going to have part 2. People have liked it more or less. Has some issues clearly, but it should be fun when I run. All right, our next caller is M.W. Lewis from the world of M.W. Lewis.
Carl, this is M.W. Lewis here. I just listened to your episode, What's Next? And that was a great episode for me to listen to as I am re-emerging from a cocoon. A self-imposed cocoon I've been in since the torturous month of March and first week of April, when I had that long 20-day trial, jury duty, and all work all around it. It was very exhausting to me. I would say mentally exhausting, and I have just not been creative the last several weeks, all of April and into May now. It's slowly coming back, and listening to your episode was very therapeutic. I love listening to how a number of your games have come to sort of the end of a episode or a chapter, and you're trying to figure out what to do, which reminded me that I really wanted to join one of your games as February turned into March. But as you know, that the jury duty just made it impossible. That thing was like a full-time job, and I had to do a full-time job on top of it. So I'm back now, and I really want to get into one of your games. So I'm making this a public call to sort of lay the gauntlet down. And you have a number of games I'm interested in. I do love playing AD&D, but I would like to experience, a different game that I'm not used to and learn from you because you know so much about them. You also have inspired me to look into going to the North Texas RPG Con. I have already contacted them and learned I can get a badge on site, and there's still a number of really fun games available. And if I haven't gotten through Saturday and Sunday yet, but if I could find games that look fun to me on those 2 days, I'm darn it, I might just go down there and participate. Maybe I'll even hop in one of your games. And finally, Carl, you're talking about the A series. Boy, I love that series. I really love that series. And there is a YouTube channel called RPG Mods Fan. And he, a few years ago, did walkthroughs of a number of TSR modules, and of course he did the A series. And I bought the book from DriveThruRPG that came out from Wizards of the Coast called Against the Slave Lords, and it included A0, the Dark Shelf module that you're running now. And from RPG Mods Fan, I also learned of a Dungeon Magazine mini adventure that takes place in Highport that you should run your players through prior to starting A1, which is the slave pits of the Undercity, I believe. And that was a really fun, I think it was called Lowdown at Highport. And that's a fun little module. And you really do need to sprinkle in some side adventures between Dark Shelf and A1, because the characters have to legitimately be 4th and 5th level, maybe even a 6th level, to be able to solve A1. A1's very challenging. Dark Shelf's very challenging too, Carl. Your inclination is right that your players should not be going to the mine, then leaving the mine, then going back to the mine or the quarry, whatever it is. And I really recommend, if you haven't already done so, for your players to run 2 characters and make sure the party, I don't know how many players you have, but let's say you have 4 players. Make sure the party's about 8 PC strong. If you have only 3 players or 5 players, then you don't need them all to run. If they're 3, you need to have 2 characters per player, plus an NPC or 2. But if you have 5 or more players, just make sure they have a couple of good henchmen with them. And that should mitigate needing to go to the quarry and back multiple times. If they go in, if you only have 4 players, I don't think it's possible. You maybe should make some modifications to it. So that's just my advice. You can hear all about my hijinks running the A series. We did not get to A2, unfortunately, because my Monday night game had the famous breakup in March of 2023, just before we started A2. But you can hear all about us running A0, Dark Shelf, the Dungeon Magazine adventure, and all the way through the Highport adventure, A1, on my podcast, as I did do session reads for all of those sessions in 2022 and 2023. You just have to go and find them on my podcast if you're interested. I also recommend, besides RPG Mods Fan, who does walkthroughs, the Dungeon Delver on YouTube is currently doing live play of the A series, and you could go back and listen to the back live play of A1, which I think they did last year, like sort of May, June, maybe a little earlier, March. But it takes a lot of work, though, to go to Dungeon Delver and go through his back content, but it's worth it. He has a fun group, and they did the A series. A1 was really fun. They did not do A0, though. He's running the individual modules. He's not doing the whole Against the Slave Lords book. That included the A1. So is that all I had to say on that A series in your episode? I think so, Carl. So I'm getting back in it. I got a podcast coming out soon. Any one of my fans who also listen to your show, I have my review of Michael Moorcock's Runestaff series. It's almost complete. I'm going to make a few tweaks to it and record it maybe tonight. And I'm going to do my reading from Monday Night AD&D in the same episode, or maybe a separate episode. I think my review of the 4 Moorcock books is going to go a little long. So anyway, I'm back, Carl. Let's get in touch. Let's get me in a game. And I really enjoyed your episode. What's next?
Well, thank you for the call, MW. Good to hear that you are back. Look forward to listening to those new podcasts. And it's kind of wow, being on jury duty and having to go through that is a challenge. But thank you for being a good citizen and doing that civic duty. I think that's pretty cool. I've never been myself on a panel. It seemed to be, when I've gone to the jury duty, I think I get opted out because I think I'm more of usually the prosecutor will opt me out because I'm less of a feels guy and more of an analytical guy, and I will let other way around. Is that other way around? Yes, other way around. Usually I am thrown out by the defense attorneys because I am more of a facts analytical guy than an emotion guy, and I'm not really swayed by sympathy because I'm a mean son of a bitch, I guess. Anyway, just take your comments in parcel. So it'd be great to see you at North Texas. I have some games that have room, and it'd be great to see you there so we could hang out, have a beer maybe, and I am bringing other stuff to play, even if you don't get into any of my games or the time doesn't really work for you. So Slavers. Yeah, I'm running it as a campaign. I'm not just running the adventures sort of in isolation. We've had a great time with Dark Shelf, and they did go through. I had to kind of do, since it was continuous and also actual play, and this is how we roll, I had to sort of, I let them advance in the hit points, but not in the special abilities of the classes. So now they have a backlog of about 6 weeks of training, plus all that money. And I also went through and kind of, where I thought the treasure was kind of dearth, I rolled on the treasure tables for a few encounters to see if they'd get extra treasure, which I think was definitely very helpful and kind of fun, actually. So they had enough money to train somewhat. And then they're going to have to wait to get that money. So when we jump to the next thing, they might have to do some, or if we jump to A1, they're going to have to do a few missions to get that money to train, right? So, and of course, there's the time thing. However, my world the world keeps moving. So it just turned out, really, as they kind of are deciding to incorporate the quarry, use it as a source of revenue, and it's a kind of a backwater dark shelf in the kingdom of Nyrond, and they're going to do something with it, try to make that place a better place. However, they had to kind of clear the land a little bit, and they had an encounter, and then they had these ledgers from the chief of operations at this place, and they discovered through studying the ledger that there was going to be, and I rolled randomly, a slaver ship coming in to take cargo and drop off money the week following. So they forewent training and confronted the slaver ship, which was a really cool running battle. It was a really amazing session. Now they might have money, maybe, to do the rest of the training, but hopefully there will be now a lull in the slaver activity, at least along that coast. and then after they train, they might have to. Right, Dark Shelf is not a good. You can't really find a trainer in Dark Shelf, so they were going to go to Nessermouth, but now that they kind of have the cargo of this boat, they might have to buy a few carts or refit the boat, get some training done, and then sail to a port that they can dump this cargo, sell this cargo that they have, which was a lot of furs and rolled randomly ivory, crazy stuff. It was kind of neat. I love random treasure tables in D&D and BX. So, and you also talked about. So we're going to continue. I think we have a really good group. They are really. I think they're solid players, and they've been bringing Amy along so she can learn AD&D as well. And it's different. And I think she made a comment the other day when we were playing 5e. I think I like AD&D better. So that's pretty funny. But I think it's a different mindset, I believe, in AD&D, knowing that your characters are fragile and that you kind of plan and refrain from the idea of zerging the opposition, but plan and set ambushes, make it so that you get the first jump, luck with withstanding, that you get the first jump on an opposition, take out spellcasters, etc., etc. So yeah, it's been pretty fun. So finally, when are you going to jump in a game of mine? I don't know. I play Monday, got Traveler. Tuesday, looks like we're playing Dune. That one could be like a drop-in, drop-out type of thing, since we have a house established and there's different people in the house that do things. Wednesday, I have... What do I have on Wednesday? Well, Hyperborea, and opposite that, we've started another Traveler game. That's Amy and BJ are in that game. And Thursday is my home group. Friday, we have Masks and then opposite that, a rotating game. So you've got lots of stuff. I'm going to put a schedule or be more diligent about putting a schedule of what games are being offered on the channel and whether they're being recorded or not. So some people not wanting to be recorded, that's fine. I have games where we don't record. We're trying to build up our YouTube. We're getting close to a milestone, and it would be kind of cool if you tell your friends to like and subscribe. And anyone who's listening, please like and subscribe. I think we got some good stuff there. On Saturday mornings, we play One Ring. So I've been doing that opposite. And of course, you said no more AD&D for you, or perhaps we get into too many arguments because of the house rules that I inevitably use, or the rulings I inevitably make to cover things in AD&D. But that's kind of why I like that system. I feel it's more freeform. It gives me a lot more leeway, which is maybe ironic. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for calling, MW. And I apologize already, everyone, for the length of this particular episode. But next, I have my conversation with BJ. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So I have a segment for you today, and I'm not going to be talking to myself. In fact, I brought an expert, a friend, a fellow gamer, BJ Boyd, to talk with me about something that I kind of heard, or I've heard not in a few podcasts, when the question is asked, have you switched from D&D 5th edition 2014 to D&D 2024? Usually the response has been negative. So I don't know if you've experienced that, BJ, and can you say hi to everyone. Hello, BJ.
Hello, everybody.
I don't know if you've experienced it, but they're like almost like, oh no, of course not, never. I mean, that's almost the kind of response that I get, or I've heard. Not that I've gotten. I haven't really switched myself because I'd really only have the player's handbook. But I've asked BJ to come on board because he's very open to all types of games, both old and new. He is a nouveau grognard, I guess. But has also played a lot of 5e, probably more than I have.
Yeah.
Has run some of these long campaigns. And I've started some 5e games, and I don't know yet if I'm going to switch to 2024. But I'm open to it. I think it has a lot of cool things. But since I'm not as familiar with it, and honestly, we were trying to introduce a new player to one of these D&D 5e type games, and I didn't want to try to introduce myself to a new concept or new concepts while trying to teach the game to this new individual. In any case, I brought Beej on board to discuss some of the changes, maybe the major changes to D&D 5e from the 2014 to the 2024 version. So, have you had a chance to look at it? Really? I mean, I've
I
glanced at
have.
it.
I've kind of skimmed it, but I
Hmm.
haven't gone a deep. Like I haven't sat down and made a character.
Right.
Um, I played D&D actually at a Ren fair over the weekend. They were doing
Uh,
some demo like 1 hour
do they do
sessions,
2024?
and it was fifth edition. But I didn't. We just had our stats. We didn't get to see.
Okay.
We didn't have the rules in front of us. They were just pre-made characters. So I don't know that the you know I it seemed like it was a typical the 5e I'm used to, but I
Yeah.
don't know enough to know if maybe they were 2024 made characters, and because it was
Right.
really a game. It was a lot of fun, but it was atmospheric. But it was also set up to be like you don't have ever had play D&D. You don't have to know the
Hmm.
rules. Everything you need to know is right there on your this kind of custom character sheet they made, so you didn't have to look anything up in the book. So
Right. Did you play? I know it was actually yeah, it was in 2024. Duh. So did you play in the when I ran it at Big Texas Comic Con, did you run the or
I
play in
played
the
part of it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so
The
those were
intro.
characters were built with 2024.
Yeah, it
So
wasn't. If you know how to, my experience with that, and
mhm.
from what I've looked through is if you know how to play 5e and you just sit down and someone said, "Hey, here's your character," you probably might not even notice, unless you'd played enough to go. I've played this class a couple times before, and this looks a little different. You might pick up on but as far as it throwing you off and you have no idea how to play, I don't think
Yeah.
it's that significant of a difference.
Yeah, so I think the general consensus, I don't know if you can agree or not, is that it's not really a new edition, but more almost like like a 5.5, like tweaks,
Yeah, I think
and
that's what
still
it is.
very backwards compatible with the old adventures. You really don't need to change
Yeah,
much. You might need to change like how, depending on the level, how NPCs work, but not really monsters, because monsters were almost
yeah.
a different
I think if
thing.
like the player's handbook came out first, if you had
Yeah,
people make new characters with the 2024 player's handbook, and then behind the DM screen you're using monsters from the 2014 monster manual, I don't think anybody's going to notice,
yeah,
and vice versa. If for some reason people had a campaign and already had characters and they didn't want to respec them or anything,
right.
you could probably start using the 2024 monsters and nobody notice.
Yeah, I noticed some differences already though. I just this is also predicated on the fact, like I said, that I just started a 5e game. I don't know if it's going to turn into a campaign, but we're trying to introduce a friend of ours to playing D&D. Plays a lot of video games, but he never played like D&D and but heard a lot about it. And I might have picked one of the harder starts in these sort of published campaigns. Rime of the Frost Maiden, which you'll probably see
Mm-hmm.
in a few weeks on the YouTube channel. But yeah, it starts out pretty. There's almost like a different design philosophy, and it also harkens to an interview that I heard on Dungeon Plunger, Jason Weeb's uh, podcast with Bill Webb, where it's more, I Bill Webb was saying I design uh, campaigns, adventures to test player skill, not the player on the character sheet, right? The stats on the character sheet, right?
Yeah.
So that seemed kind of, that the entry seemed kind of like that. And fortunately, the characters survived by the skin of their teeth. Anyway, so there's no new character classes in the new 2024 book. There is no the artificer has not been redesigned. I think you can find that in the Eberron book. Is that right? Or did they
Yes, and I
have?
think I think I think the next major release coming this year is an Eberron source book with an updated artificer.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I don't know. I wonder how different it's going to be from the other Eberron source
I
book
think I
or
looked at a
exploring
preview the other
Eberron.
day. They've got a couple
Yeah, I
of
saw
different
something. Yeah, on Roll 20.
subclasses,
Hmm.
um, and it'll have new, of course, updated Eberron specific species options for Warforged and shifters,
Yeah.
changelings, things like
Mhm.
that. I think.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
I don't know. Everything seems to have been modified and rebalanced. I think the biggest thing I've already seen is that if you recall, when you're making a character, there's these subclasses or archetypes, people call them colloquially, and sometimes they unlock at second level, sometimes they unlock at third level, and
Sometimes
they're
at
all
first.
sometimes. Oh, really? There's some at first
For
too.
clerics and warlocks,
Had it first. That's
you
right.
had to
Yeah.
do it at first.
So now they're all unlocked at third level,
Yeah.
which I've seen a difference already. So when one of the players has a druid, and then the second, like the druids in 2014 got their circle at second level, so they already have their boosted shape shifting ability, but in 2024 they wouldn't get that till third level, right?
Yeah.
So they get to
Yep.
play with wild shape without the boost, and then bump up two adventures later, more or less, or two sessions later, more or less, they get those benefits. So there's some new subclasses too that they've added, and
I think
others
you can
like
see. Yeah.
go
I
ahead.
was going to say, I think you can see with the ones they've got probably what was popular over the 10-year course of original 5e,
Oh yeah.
like what they removed and what they added in.
Well, there were only two, right, in the original 2014 Player's Handbook,
It
and then
depended on
everything got added through, and now there's more.
it depended. I think some of them only had two, some of them had three. Most of them had three.
Okay.
And then of course the cleric and magic, cleric and I've been playing old school essentials for too long. The cleric and the wizard had like 10 or 11 because they had all the domains and all the schools of magic represented.
Right.
So they were a lot. They had a lot more than the other ones.
Yeah. And then there's been like redesign and terminology, like no more key points. Now it's focus, which is interesting because that's like almost like that's like a Pathfinder 2 terminology.
Yeah,
which is funny.
Is that what they did to the monk? They changed it to focus points instead of key points.
So I don't know if that's going to if other
Do you think
potential
that was
classes are going to be.
Do you think that was sort of open the monk up to being not pigeonholed into kind of Shaolin
Maybe
kung fu? You kind of show that even though it's a hand-to-hand combatant, there
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't just think about it in terms of kung fu.
Yeah, it's always kind of strange, right? If we go way in our way back time machine, to like, right, I think the original like bad guy monks was like the Scarlet Brotherhood, and Greyhawk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And right, but did you feel like they had an Eastern like kung fu martial arts type of feel to them, or
They, to me, they always struck me more as they were just sort of a crime syndicate. They're kind of assassins and secretive. That was the scary part, was and they weren't assassins by class, but that was why they were so challenging. I didn't really go deep into Greyhawk back in the day, but
say Forgotten Realms, Monastery of the Yellow Rose, that was a big one.
Yeah,
that was around.
It seems a little more it's up in the mountains and very much a
and
Shaolin temple.
I feel like initially I didn't get that like sort of pseudo Asian feel, but I feel like they retconned it at some point during.
Probably depends on which writer you were.
Yeah,
because a lot of my familiarity with the realms comes as much from the novels as the source books.
True. Yeah, and probably depends on the writer, but I feel like early on, like first edition, with the Bloodstone Pass stuff that they stuck into Forgotten Realms.
Grandmaster Kang.
Yeah,
was the monk in that.
Yeah. So, and then eventually, right. But then, like, I feel like they retconned it, like in the second edition at some point, where this monastery came over from, their Asian Orthodox Karator, and established the way of the hand or whatever they called it. So I don't know, but maybe that's right. Maybe it's like, make a monk sort of more universal. So not key the Asian inspired, but focus, right, which could be both. So then expertise is now more common, so not just used by a rogue. So I think that's probably not a bad thing, right?
But as long as as long as the expertise is limited to things related to that class, so you can still get some niche protection.
Niche protection.
I think that's not too bad. It's certainly mechanically, it's a good. I think it's a good mechanic for 5e. It's sort of, you kind of everybody kind of exists within that bounded accuracy range, and that's one of the few ways to exceed that to
Hmm.
really you'll be able to do more.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like in Pathfinder, there's still that strong niche protection for like, finesse, expertise
Mhm.
type stuff for
Yeah,
the rogue thief type classes. Um, you can't really get it unless you get to a specific rogue subclass. I don't know I can't remember what it's called in Pathfinder 2. Anyway, the other major change is the species stuff. So it's no longer a race, it's species. I mean, I don't,
I think we're seeing that across the board
yeah,
in
ancestries in Pathfinder 2, right?
they're starting to use terms ancestries, heritage, species.
Yeah.
Um, I like species. I think some people thinks it sounds a little contrary to maybe a fantasy feel,
Hmm.
but I think that's we don't think about the term species has been around for
Yeah.
millennia.
Hmm.
Just because we kind of use it as a scientific term now doesn't mean that
Right.
if that it wasn't used before modern science. So I think it's as I think part of it to me, and I don't know if I may have mentioned this in a previous podcast when we talked about this, might have been on a cerebrivore or something, where I actually like them using the term species because these are a non these are biologically not human beings.
Hmm.
It's another sentient being, but it's not human.
Hmm.
Versus when I hear heritage, ancestry, lineage, I'm thinking culture.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like I have there are all kinds of human beings on Earth with different heritages based on their cultural ancestors.
Hmm.
Um, so I kind of like that it's not. Again, we're not conflating the biology of an elf or a dwarf with necessarily their their culture.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if
So
they're
so in your own homebrew setting, you can have whatever kind of culture you would like for a dwarf or an elf or a
right.
halfling,
Oh, this is true.
but
This is true.
but use their biological traits as a chassis for what they can at least physically do.
Yeah. Well, but there's no strict biological traits really, right? Because at least mechanically, sure,
It's not the ability
physically,
scores, right?
yeah, more like I guess it's more I wasn't not fluff wise, but mechanically there's no right. They got rid of inherent ability scores, so no more higher
Yeah,
strength for an orc, no
yeah.
more higher dex for an elf. Um, something odd. I guess some dragonborn can fly. They have wings. That's an option now. I don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently.
That's kind of cool.
Um,
I used to let Dragonborn. I would say for a feat, a Dragonborn character could get wings.
yeah, well, there are always like pathways that they could take.
I think they eventually put that in there as a feat, but I kind of had
Oh,
that
maybe.
from
Yeah.
early on. I was like, they're like, why don't these Dragonborn have wings? And I'm like, yeah, well, I think there's even one in the monster manual that had wings.
Huh.
And I was like, I think that's worth a feat
Yes.
for a
So
Dragonborn character.
in any case, also like orcs, Goliath, and Aasimar have been added as a playable species.
Yeah,
No more half species, so no more half elves or half orcs. I guess it's just you determine that for your character, and they either are human or elf or human or orc
yeah.
or
You just
whatever.
pick the abilities of one.
Right.
So you can play a half orc, but you decide whether you're going to use
Be
orc
more
as your kind of
orcish or more human.
more humanish, and then I think they said to put average the height and lifespan or something like that to reflect that.
Yeah, and interestingly, no more sub race subspecies for like dwarves and halflings, but they might come with those in like world books or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Also,
it's kind of
tieflings have divergent fiendish legacies, which I thought they had that way back, like in the 2E type of days too, where you could be, abyssal, infernal, whatever,
mm-hmm.
you know, daemonic,
Yeah.
Daemonic,
The first thing that's
half
jarring
flawed, I
is
guess. I don't know.
yeah. I guess one thing that's kind of as I'm flipping through the player's handbook here,
Hmm.
um, you start with class. The classic way is to generate ability scores. Then you pick your race or species. Then you pick a class. And here they've kind of acknowledged nobody does that. They decide what kind of class they want to play, and then they kind of build a background
Yeah.
around that. That's what most people do. So they just put that up front. The character classes are the first thing you have a
Huh.
chapter, and then
Interesting.
they have the character origins chapter where you're looking at their background and their species.
Right. Yeah. So where didn't they put ability? determine ability scores because they
That's
just
right. I think
generally
that's still up
array,
front.
right?
Yeah.
It's generally an array though in 5e.
Let's see. What do they? I don't know. Rolling those ability scores is kind of a sacred cow.
Is it? I mean, I don't. I think if I'm pre-genning, I mean, I know like at the table with a long time ago, I used to have everyone just like roll, and I think I still did that for. I did that for my 1E game that I'm running because everyone just rolls, right? Whatever. Roll down, and I use method one, which is 46 drop the lowest, whatever wherever you want to put it, according to
So
Saint Gygax.
create a character
Okay.
is they say first choose your class, then choose your origin, which is a background of species.
Yep.
Then do your ability scores.
Okay.
Then I can't believe alignment is still in here.
Yeah. Well,
It's just as much as they've divorced that from anything
they divorced it from
mechanical,
in Pathfinder 2, right? But
like it, but it's still in
and
here,
I
and
don't
then
know.
filling in the details. So
Well, I'm not really so like there's no ability scores with the species anymore, but I feel like they did that already in Tasha's.
yeah, they were heading that way to begin with.
So
So
and then no
assign your
background.
ability
Yeah.
scores. Uh, you can use a standard array. You can randomly generate 46, drop the lowest, or you can do a point buy.
Yep.
They have all three of them in here,
Right.
just like they did in 2014.
So the interesting thing with so now I mean it's a major
But then they have
change.
a standard array by class, where before they would just give
Oh,
you the numbers. Now they've got the classes and a suggested array of how
okay.
you would put that standard array to best fit each class.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
Um,
Yeah, and then pick what background. Well, because that's the thing now is like your ability bonuses in character creation don't come from your species, but they come from your backgrounds, right? And everyone gets a +2 and +1 to two others, or +1 to
yeah,
three different scores.
and you just
And
put it
that,
wherever you want.
yep. And then you get from the background, you don't get like there's no background features. Instead, you get like a feat specific to that
Feet,
background
yeah,
now. And feats become more important now in the new 2024 edition versus
yeah,
2014, right?
and that worked really well. I didn't get it to the table, but we did do some pre-planning with some friends to do the Dragonlance,
Okay.
the mod adventure they released, and that was how they had the Dragonlance work. That's how they managed to get the Wizards of High Sorcery and the Knights of Solamnia backgrounds,
Mm.
was to give them a feat, and then they would just say if someone picks another background, you know,
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Just give them a feat that seems thematically on
Yeah,
appropriate.
the Iron Kingdoms did something similar to that too, where you had like a sort of a feat like thing that you picked. What type of like what was your in a way your ability focus was a feat
Mm-hmm.
of some sort, and
Yeah,
then and also the modern 5e something heroes, extraordinary heroes, what is it called,
mm-hmm.
everyday heroes also did
Yeah,
that too, where you got a feat. So some versions of the D&D 5e kind of did that already, and now there are feats like we said. So there's general feats, origin feats, their fighting styles, and then boons at 19th level. So I guess they've redesigned a bunch of them. I don't know.
I think what's really interesting here is they've got tables, and they've
Mhm.
got it here right up the bat when you generate your ability scores. So once you get your ability scores, you can roll or you can pick
Mhm.
um, for your scores where you've got a high or a low one. Probably if you're in the middle, not so much. But um, so you got a high streak. Choose one and roll a d4. It's starting to describe your character: muscular, sinewy, protective, direct. Something that reflects strength. There's a little bit of personality there and a little bit of a physical
Well, that's
descriptor.
good because like before, in the previous incarnations, they had tables to for your personality and all that, but it's kind of random. And now I guess it could be directed
And
onto how
then
you view your character.
they've also got it then under alignment. It has
Oh,
four
okay.
four traits for each domain of alignment that you can pick or roll or use as inspiration to talk about kind of your character's moral and ethical stance. So
Mhm.
it's kind of got some cool stuff in here about how to just sort of sketch out some adjectives. So you might let me talk amongst yourself, Carl, while I flip back to this page, and I'll see what
Okay.
it might look like.
Yeah. So there's a swath of rules changes, some major, some minor. Actions now have kind of rules attached to them. So, like for example, study, you could talk someone down in combat, influence, right? Analyze opponent. Well, study, analyze opponent, then influence, talk someone down. Kind of like, again, referencing Bill Webb's conversation with Jason Weave on the Dungeon Plunger, how Bill is going to put in parlay rules, right, for his stuff. So how to do that, how these actions might do that. They have crafting. Yay, there's crafting. I think that's a good thing. How to make poisons, potions, etc. And now they brought back from the 3 point whatever days feats tied to specific gears. You know, feats tied to a specific type, right? You remember there was like craft potion, craft wand. I
Oh
don't know.
yeah, people like those
I don't know.
crafting feats.
Yeah, I thought that. I mean, the crafting rules. I think in three, I don't know. I can't remember if 3.5 took away the XP.
They
Uh,
did
they took
sometimes.
so 3.5 took away the XP cost. I know Pathfinder
It
one
also
did.
to really be able to craft stuff well, you almost had to sink all your feats into crafting
Right,
and skills. And I think part of the goal they've tried to do in 5e is that you have fewer feats, but they're much broader and much more
right.
complete in
Same
what
with
they give
skills. I
you.
guess they cut down on the number of skills
Yeah.
too.
Hmm.
So, which is good. Streamline. You want streamlined, I think. Exhaustion. They kind of just -2, reduced to speed. So they simplified that a bit. Um, and they have guns and firearms, which is nice. They're expensive as hell, but that's cool.
Yeah.
And
What page
then
is alignment on?
I don't know.
Creating your
So
character.
I think they've kind of codified better grappling and all that kind of stuff. Apparently, interestingly, long rest you have to have at least 2 days between or 16 hours between them. So you can't, you know, have an encounter then a long rest, have an encounter then a long rest. It doesn't work that
Yeah.
way, I guess. So that's just more codification, right? Maybe stem from play in the field and feedback. Uh, so right. So then there's 30 more spells apparently in the 2024 Paralyzed Handbook, which is interesting. I haven't really done a detailed perusal of that. The other thing I thought was interesting is this weapon mastery thing, is that certain classes can master weapons and it gives them an additional bonus effect when they get an attack. So I know like if you have like a dagger, you get like extra bonus damage. Some like spear can trip, staff can trip. So things like that, which is interesting. I guess it adds a bit more granularity or options for the non-spell casting, the martial classes. I mean, so I don't know if you played with that or seen how that
Well,
works.
we've seen a version of that when we played Tales of the
Yeah,
Valiant. It's
Tales of the
not the
Valiant
exact
had that.
same rule, but it's an idea that
Yeah,
I think particularly for like fighters, you get a little more.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I don't know if that makes it more complicated, more decisions to make. What do you think? I guess we'd have to see it in play. Or,
yeah,
or I mean, because a
yeah,
new player is not going to remember that, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Unless you fight a lot of wolves and then you're always reminded because they bite and they trip you. But
yeah. Well, let's take a look at the rule while I have the book open.
oh, the weapon mastery?
Yeah, what page is that on?
I don't know.
Is that a fighter feature or is that a weapon feature?
I think it's says certain classes can master it, but then it's probably tied. They're tied to the specific weapons. I know. Just reading through barbarians can choose like of their weapons to have like a mastery on per day, and then they can change it after a long rest or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
you can switch that, which I don't know. That's odd, but why would you why would you lose a mastery in a
Okay,
particular
so
weapon?
it is similar to the what we saw in Tales
Yeah,
of the
go ahead and
Valiant.
read
So
it.
like
That's an interesting
like
feature, I think.
the dagger has a mastery. If you have weapon mastery with a dagger, it's got a nick.
Hmm.
When you make the extra attack with um this, if you're using the light property, so if you're using your dex, uh you can make this extra attack only. Well, let's see. So that is actually, so I guess that is the, let's see, is that also the Where's the short sword and scimitar? Yeah. So this is what's kind of replaced the. Remember, you could take
Bonus
a
action.
bonus action with a light weapon if you're this is saying if you're using the light property of these weapons, so it applies to like the dagger, the scimitar.
Oh, so weapons have multiple properties, and you can choose which one.
So if it has the nick property, when you make the extra attack as if it has this nick property, it doesn't use up your bonus action. So
Okay.
if you've got like you've got you're fighting with two daggers.
Mhm.
Well, they're both light. You can make that offhand attack as a bonus action with that second dagger in your offhand.
Yeah.
Normally in standard 5e. Well, in here, if it like the dagger has the nick property, when you do that, it doesn't take up your bonus action.
It just happens.
It just happens. So if it's got this nick property, you can just make 2 attacks
Oh, okay.
without using your bonus action.
That's not that seemed to be an issue unless you were a rogue where you had that at second level, that ability to get that extra like attack thingy, and I think
or
second
like
and
a
third.
club. The club has a slow property. If you hit
Okay.
a creature of this weapon and deal damage, you can reduce its speed by 10 feet.
Smack it in the
So
shins.
again, a wizard picking up a club. I don't even know wizards are. I think wizards should be proficient with clubs, but
Yeah, simple weapons.
Yeah, a wizard's not going to be able to do that. But say a fighter or a barbarian or a ranger
Oh yeah.
can do that.
Yeah.
If they have that ability to become take mastery over that weapon. So that's
What is
kind
it?
of it.
Axe or hand axe or battle axe? What do they do?
Let's see. Hand axe, Vex. If you hit a creature with this weapon and deal damage to the creature, you have advantage on your next attack before the end of your next turn.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
And battle axe, same thing.
A battle axe, Topple. If
Oh
you hit a
geez.
creature with this weapon, you can force the creature to make a con saving throw. DC 8 plus your ability fire of your whatever
Yeah.
you use for the attacks or strength. And
It's
your
like you
proficiency
harry them.
bonus.
Yeah. You harry them. That's
Yeah.
cool.
On a failed save, they're prone. So you just hit them so hard you knock them over.
Well, cool. I mean I think that can lead to some interesting and more dynamic type of combat, which is fun.
Yeah.
Not just damage, but the combat's more dynamic, I guess. I
Yeah.
said that already, but
So for example, the rapier has like the Vex action. Or the Vex property. So you could make an attack with the rapier. If you hit, you get advantage. And then if you say had a dagger in your offhand, well,
it's just you that gets advantage, or like if you hit with a rapier, one of your players
you have
gets
you have advantage. So like if you hit
on
with a rapier, then you could
that same round, or then does it extend to next round? That's a good question.
well, I suppose what you could do, you could actually use that light weapon, the dagger. You wouldn't get the nick property, but you would get the ability to use it as a bonus action to attack a second, but you get advantage on that one.
Okay. Do all light weapons have that ability? I don't know.
No. So
No.
like the club is a light weapon, but it has a slow if you're a mastery of it. So
Okay.
all light weapons you can attack. I think is a bonus action in your
can you?
as a second attack. Mm-hmm.
That's cool. So you could do like battle axe and hand axe. Do people
I
take
think
advantage
battle
of
axe is a two-handed. No, it's versatile.
that? Oh, okay. Oh, it's versatile.
Yeah, when you take the attack action with a light weapon, you can make an extra attack as a bonus action later in that same turn.
Oh.
The extra attack must be made with a different light weapon. So I guess you couldn't use the rapier because it's not light, but you can do it with a short sword.
Yeah. Oh,
Or
interesting.
a scimitar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, going with a short sword. It's light. Going with a short sword and vex them, hit them, and give yourself advantage, and follow through with
Yeah, it's definitely worth.
with a. You could have scimitar in the other hand, and then give him that nick. Where you.
Yeah.
I know. I guess you couldn't do that. You'd have to play at the time. I think this is
You have to
straightforward.
test it out, right?
If
See
you played
how
it a
works.
couple times, it would all fall into place.
Right. Right. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
What a
I guess the onus would be, well, I guess hopefully, well, the GM might remember that for
yeah. So
NPCs.
the great sword has the cleave property. We get cleave back.
Oh,
If you hit. Um, you can on a successful attack, you can hit a second creature within 5 feet,
well,
or
that's
you can
cool.
attack a second creature within 5 feet. The glaive has the graze property. So does the uh, the great sword has the graze. It's the great axe that has the cleave. Um, halberd has the cleave graze property. This is mastery property.
Yep.
You damage the creature equal to your ability modifier you use to make the attack.
All right. Well, I mean,
You can deal. If
we're
you
not going
miss,
to
it
get into
still
like,
does. If you miss, it still does your ability bonus.
yeah, huh,
So you just graze them.
interesting. Well, I mean, it definitely is worth checking out. I mean, I would. I guess I always like trying new things, so wouldn't mind
Yeah.
checking it out. Like again, it does seem it has other little things here and there that can make the tabletop experience or virtual tabletop experience more exciting. What's your verdict then? Willing to give it a try or?
I'm willing to give it a try. Yeah. I'm trying to find this table that I swear I saw when I was flipping through just before we started. Oh, it's okay. It's right after the ability. So it's these tables on personality traits by alignment. So
Okay.
and then you've got appearance and personality traits based on your ability scores. So give me a typical, give me an archetypal type of a
Chaotic
character.
good. Oh, Ranger. Chaotic good Ranger.
Chaotic good ranger, probably going to be what, dexterous and wise.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
you might say that this
Or
is
wise and
a
strong. Mhm.
yeah, you might say this is a protective and poised, attentive, but reserved because he maybe has a low charisma.
Mhm. Interesting.
Um, character who is rebellious but compassionate.
Interesting. Yeah, that's
That
good. I
would
mean, good like touchstones for traits to
yeah.
and stuff. So that's kind of cool.
Or like a bard. You could say that a bard might be
Hmm.
let's see, dynamic and curious, somewhat distractible, but very charming. Are have a laconic wit, um, and can be somewhat self-absorbed. That might be how a chaotic neutral bard would come out, depending on how you rolled. I mean, if you just want to roll randomly, or if you want to set, pick. But it's kind of it. I think that's a good. I always like when they give, particularly inexperienced players, some ideas of how to create a personality or a presence for the character, so you're not just thinking of them as a collection of stats.
Yeah.
And so you could say, well, think about how your character as, you know, along those traits. And that's really what I think they were trying to do with inspiration originally.
Hmm.
Was you're supposed to get inspiration whenever you acted according to your personality traits,
Yeah.
particularly when that was not the most mechanically or strategically optimal thing to do.
Hmm.
Is that you could earn inspiration by kind of creating a complication for yourself.
Right.
But I think they just never. It was just not really. It was kind of tacked on. It wasn't really well integrated. And I'm trying to see is inspiration still in here as part of the. Did they keep it or did they get rid of it?
Hmm. I don't know. That's interesting. So I just look at this light thing, something I probably miss or I always forget or need to remind the players about. So like if you have a club, a hand axe, a sickle, what else is light? A scimitar, a short sword, and a dagger, I guess, right? Dagger. And a light hammer. So you could be like a druid wielding a scimitar and a sickle.
Yep.
You get a bonus action as extra attack. That's kind of cool. Right. Good to know.
Yeah, that's
But
why
now, but now,
when I play a wizard, I don't carry a staff. I carry two daggers.
oh yeah,
If I'm going to get in a fight,
that's funny.
I'm going
All
to
right,
cut you.
that's good. That's good to remember. All right. Well, thanks, BJ. I don't know if we're maybe if we get some feedback, we'll see. Maybe we'll talk about changes in the DMG, which I heard is really good. For one change, I know is Forgotten Realms is not the default. It's not Greyhawk now, right? Back to Greyhawk.
Yeah, and they've got Greyhawk names in the
Yeah,
one of the appendixes, I think.
which is interesting because that goes back to the 3.0, right? 3.0 Greyhawk deities.
Or down to AD&D. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So, well, I mean, AD, I guess was that default? No, I don't think it was. Greyhawk was a default. There was no implied setting, but then they
I
had
think
Greyhawk. Then Ed
yeah,
Greenwood came up with Forgotten Realms,
I
right?
think Greyhawk was sort of unofficially by default,
Well, that was their
like a
their
lot of those
home brew, right? Their
AD&D
home brew setting,
modules. You can
right?
they're set
Yeah,
in
the AD&D
Greyhawk.
modules were set. Yeah, in those.
Uh, but I think our Unearthed Arcana specifically gave some lore for stuff that was from Greyhawk for like some
Right.
of the other options, but
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah,
think the
that's cool.
player's handbook suggested a.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, when the original, they didn't think anybody would want anything other than the rules to make characters and run scenarios.
Hmm.
They didn't think people wanted pre-made adventures or their own setting until people started writing in and going, "Hey,
Yeah. Well, it's sometimes it's. I mean, I find it easier to run. I guess it's another discussion. I find it easier to run to something pre-made. Although I think the challenge therein lies some of these older modules, not so much like the D&D dungeon crawls because they are what they are, right? It's a set of encounters, and you can make them static or free floating, right? Like I have never believed in a dungeon setting that everyone just stays in their room, right? There's got to be
yeah,
roles, and you can you could trigger you could use what's the term in video games where you could pull
draw
the whole
aggro."
yeah, you could aggro pull the whole dungeon accidentally,
Yeah,
right? So, which is interesting. I mean, I feel that way. I guess that's another story too, because I know that some in one game that I was running, some players, there was a couple players who played with me before, and they kind of understood that concept because that's logical, it makes sense. But other players coming from I guess a different play experience background were still of that mindset. Well, everything is sort of isolated. Everything is an isolated encounter, so they didn't
yeah.
understand. Well, why is that guy running away? I don't know. Get him, some player would say. Or what
Go
are you
get
talking about? What do you
reinforcements.
mean? What are you talking about? I threw a fireball and now everyone knows. Well, because the big
Yeah,
explosion. I
yeah,
mean, if you're right, if you're sitting in a building and there's a big explosion, you're gonna be like, "What the hell is going on?" You're not gonna.
yeah.
So anyway, well, there you go. Well, thanks so much, BJ, for coming on. I hope we've given you a little taste of at least the player's handbook, what's different, what to expect, and maybe you should go check it out.
When we kind of delve back into Eberron, I thought, oh, maybe we'll respec the characters with 20, but then we don't have.
Don't have what?
uh
Oh, the
well,
Eberron.
well, I guess I could respec mine. He's a monk. I could use the 2014 monk and kind of tweak him a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know how
Um,
different it would be. I
and
mean,
Amy's point. What's Amy's characters?
Warlock. She's a
A
Warlock.
warlock. Yeah,
Yeah,
we could at least do the classes. We'd still have to rely on the existing Eberron for the species for right now.
the species and lore. Yeah, but that's. I mean, that I don't think that so much matters except that character creation. But if
It just affects your ability
it
scores.
just yeah, and those are already kind of set in a way
Hmm.
because I think you guys are like third or fourth level at that point, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
In that game. So then we just look to see what changes there are, and you already have your subclass. I think everyone has their
Hmm.
subclass at that point. So I don't know. The
Yeah.
changes
And
would might be the changes would be more in the play, right? So right, if you I don't know, you already using like unarmed attacks, so you have bonus actions already. I don't know if that's going to make things
yeah.
different. It might change your decision. It might influence your decision making on okay, well, I'm going to carry it. I have my staff, maybe I'll use that more because I can trip people with it, right? So,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
it'll go to two like joysticks, right, or two clubs type of thing.
Yeah.
See how that knock people like slow them down so they can't move anymore. You smack their shins, type of thing. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, it would probably make
And that
for
now
changes in the
that opens up
gameplay.
a whole possibility for a monk of
Yeah,
using their weapons not to do damage, but simply to stop movement or get somebody like, yeah, I'm going to give myself advantage, and now I'm going to do my martial art double punch or
yeah,
kicks with
sure.
it, and I have advantage on the attack.
Yeah, that should be pretty cool. Okay.
I like that appeals to me. I know some people feel that's tactical, and I know we're kind of on we're running out of time, but one thing I do like about I do enjoy the tactical side of the more complex. As much as I like rules light, I do enjoy the tactical challenge of character building, not in a way to just always be super optimized
Hmm.
or outshine or break the game or beat the game. But it is fun to think about, particularly for me, for martial characters, to think, well, if I was a professional soldier
Hmm.
or warrior or mercenary in a D&D style world, my job is to be the best possible fighter I could possibly be. Of course, I'm going to know how to get the most out of my weapons and armor
Right.
and what combat maneuvers and dirty fighting tricks and things like that are going to work in different situations. That just, to me, that I think that's how fighters and monks and
Yeah,
rangers
I think so.
those type
Yeah,
of work.
I think some of my favorite encounters have been, I mean, you can even think in Eberron where you have these like a lot of pieces on the table, and how are you guys? There's like a handful of you guys and a bunch of them, and how are you going to handle this, right?
Yeah,
So that's always fun to like kind of, and then have options to control the battlefield. I guess is makes it kind
yeah,
of fun.
yeah,
Makes it really, I think it makes it really fun instead of just standing there and letting them all come towards you or whatever. But like slowing some down, moving away, that kind of, it's kind of cool.
yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, BJ, for coming on and discussing a little bit of D&D 5e theory. What's old and
Yeah.
what is new, but sometimes what is new has been done before, right? What is that term? What is old is new?
What's old is new again.
But as old as new again. Yeah, because
Yep.
some of these, like the feet thing and some other concepts, we've seen that in
I
like
think they moved
3.0,
a little. I
3.5,
think they moved
the
a little more
crafting.
back in the direction of 3.5 with the
I
feats,
think so.
which people
Yeah.
love feats. People talked about that from the beginning. I wish we
Yeah, and
had
then
more feats or
and
more.
then there's even a feat where you can, the standard in 5e was at fourth level, you give yourself like stat bonuses, right? But now
Mhm.
that could be a potential, and some feats have a stat bonus associated with them. So that could
Yeah.
be, yeah, so it's pretty cool. All right. Thank you so much, BJ, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you later.
Okay, thank you everyone for listening. This has been the Geomologist Presents. If you guys have any feedback, or let me know your experience in converting 2014 to 2024 D&D 5e, what you think, or just talk about D&D and hey, what's your favorite rule set maybe for D&D or D&D adjacent? I'm sure there are quite a few comments about that, maybe. Anyway, for that feedback, you can email me at geomologist@gmail.com. You can drop me a line. I'm on Discord and a lot of different Discord channels. Just DM me or whatever. I have a SpeakPipe account linked to this podcast. Thank you so much, BJ, for joining me. Thank you so much, Jason Connerly, for leaving me a message, and also MW for a fascinating message and discussion. All right, I have a little blurb about the Anchorite APA to end this, and then a special different type of outro by TJ to highlight what we're going to be doing, some of us, next week. North Texas RPG Con. Thanks so much, everyone. Good night and good rolling.
You like old school games, so why not talk about them in an old school way with the Anchorite APA? An APA is an amateur press association. Every 6 weeks, you send in a zine filled with whatever inspires you. Play reports, rules ideas, reviews, anything. We compile it with everyone else's into one awesome collection, and you get it delivered straight to you. Physical mail in the US, PDF elsewhere. It's more than a publication. It's a community. Be part of a tradition that's tangible, creative, and fun. Visit sites.google.com/view/anchorite The Anchorite APA. Your next great adventure starts here.
It's an orgy of game and everybody knows your name.
Vortex is RPG.
The organizer and Satan are one and the same.
Vortex is RPG.
And we'll all be bumping uglies playing in shows games.
Vortex is RPG.
North Texas RPG Con. First weekend in June at the Westin Inn in scenic Irving, Texas. Pack those dice bags and a spare liver.
Vortex is RPG.